I've been contemplating making this video for a very long time. This is a theory that I am extremely passionate about, and I genuinely believe this is the way Oda has been setting up Kaido to be defeated. If Kaido is to die in this arc, Zoro is going to be the one who kills him. Zoro landing the final killing blow on Kaido makes the most narrative sense and has been telegraphed tremendously. If you're a subscriber of mine or just a fan of One Piece and have been watching YouTube videos about the series over the last few years, you may have come across the idea that Zoro could potentially be the one to land the final killing blow on the Emperor Kaido. This is an idea that is commonly hated and disregarded by fans far and wide within the community. I actually made a video on this very topic in February, but even if you have seen that video, I strongly urge you to watch this one, because from February until now, the amount of evidence we've gathered has almost tripled. Not to mention my skills as a content creator have increased tremendously, which should provide for a much more engaging video with a lot more covered in a much smaller amount of time. Before I do begin theorizing, I do want to say, if you dislike the notion that Zoro could be the one to kill Kaido, watch this entire video from start to finish. Don't skip any of it. Watch all of it. And I promise you that unless you choose to lie to yourself, you will be convinced of the very likely possibility. This to me is the single most stacked and mind-blowing One Piece theory I have ever come across. And the thing is, as long as this video is, I wasn't able to pack all of the information we've gathered into this video. And lastly, I do want to say, if you think you have found an issue with the theory, please do share your thoughts in the comment section, and I will make sure to make a video in the future where I address every single one of the counter arguments you can provide for this theory. This theory is stacked with evidence, from mythology to parallels between arcs, to parallels between Zoro and the two most legendary swordsmen of the past, to statements from Oda himself in magazines, to an extremely convincing interpretation of Toki's prophecy, to an occurrence of Oda's favourite theme, inherited will, to blatant foreshadowing that's handled so subtly that it's hard to catch at first, but even harder to miss when you look for it. This is a mega theory, with a ton of evidence gathered, and I want you to treat this video like a package of information, with as much of the evidence that we have found up until now that supports Zoro killing Kaido that I could possibly have fit into this video. Before I begin sharing some of the evidence we've gathered, I think I should make something very clear. This will by absolutely no means be a 1v1 battle. Kaido is an overwhelming force, and the alliance requires multiple individuals to stand against him together in order to defeat him. I will be arguing why Zoro will be the most prominent individual in this group battle and why he will land the decisive killing blow on Kaido. Now that that's out of the way, allow me to begin arguing the case for Zoro to be the one who kills Kaido. Why am I so confident that Kaido will die? This is One Piece, a manga where characters, especially antagonists, rarely ever die. Yet still, I am extremely confident that Kaido will die, because I believe Kaido has to die. There is no other way to truly save Wano other than to kill Kaido or somehow gain his allegiance, and I think we can all agree that Kaido suddenly becoming a good guy would be pretty poor. For the first time ever, the antagonist can't just be defeated and then imprisoned. That is made vehemently clear in Kaido's introductory chapter, chapter 795, where Oda emphasizes that Kaido has been captured numerous times, 18 times to be specific, but he always escapes. In order to truly save Wano from Kaido's tyranny and to guarantee their safety, the Alliance must kill Kaido. At the same time, in that very chapter, chapter 795, Oda does emphasize that Kaido cannot be killed. However, this is a clear setup for Kaido's wonderful death. You see, the thing with Kaido is, he actually wants to die. Kaido wants a terrific and grand death that he can be remembered by. A death similar to the death of Kozuki Oden that impressed him greatly. I think Kaido's desire to die a grand death stems from his admiration and respect for Oden's final moments. Thus, by dying, you actually give Kaido what he wants and give him the dream he longs for, which would make this death a lot more appealing than most others. This could be a happy moment for Kaido, which would explain why Oda is comfortable with killing Kaido when he usually struggles when it comes to killing off characters. The best way for Kaido to die is to be beheaded. This is the most fitting way for Kaido to die. This is the most thematically fitting end for his life and climax to this arc. We are in Wano Kuni, the embodiment of Japan in One Piece, a land of great samurai and also the land where the sword god of the past, Shimotsuki Ryuma, slayed a dragon above the capital. Time and time again, it is emphasized that Kaido will be killed and that his head will be taken rather than just Kaido will be defeated. With antagonists in the past like Crocodile or Doflamingo, we usually have remarks from our protagonists like, "I'm gonna beat them up," or "I'm going to defeat them." However, this time, for the very first time, we have various instances that directly foreshadow that Kaido must be beheaded. In Yasui's final words, he proclaims that for 20 long years, no one has been able to take Kaido's head. Hell, the entire objective of the Alliance on the night of the Fire Festival is to raid Onigashima in the name of the Kozuki clan and take the heads of Kaido and the Shogun Orochi. The best way for Kaido to be killed is for him to be beheaded, which is why a swordsman is the one who is most fit to carry out the task. I cannot see Kaido being punched to death, which kind of crosses Luffy and Kid off of the potential candidates to kill Kaido. Now let's get into actually arguing the case for Zoro to be the one to kill Kaido. I'm gonna start off with some statements from One Piece's magazines. This is definitely some of the most riveting evidence we've gathered in support of Zoro killing Kaido, and I have personally witnessed people be completely convinced by the theory thanks to these two magazine statements alone. The first statement is from One Piece Magazine Volume 5. Oda says, and I quote, "The opponent that Zoro defeated in Thriller Bark, Ryuma, is said by legend to have cut down a Western dragon with his sword, a sword that is now in Zoro's hands. In Punk Hazard, Zoro already killed a Western dragon as well. Now, Zoro and the Straw Hats are in Ryuma's homeland, Wano, to take down one of the Yonko, Kaido. Now that Zoro has obtained Shusui from Ryuma after their duel, the possibility might arise that a new legend of slaying an Eastern dragon might be born." This is a lot to take in, but I'll simplify it for you guys just a little bit. Ryuma slayed a Western dragon in the past, and Zoro imitated this feat on Punk Hazard when he himself slayed a Western dragon too. However, the difference between these two feats is that Ryuma's feat is that of legend. It is something fabled and something remarkable that helps to solidify the fame of the legendary sword god Ryuma. Zoro, on the other hand, just slayed a dragon. Nobody witnessed this. This isn't something Zoro is celebrated for. It's just something that happened back on Punk Hazard that nobody knows about. However, now that Zoro is in Ryuma's homeland, the land of Wano, the land that is oppressed by Kaido, who happens to be an Eastern dragon, the possibility could arise that a new legend of slaying an Eastern dragon might be born. If you're not familiar with Eastern dragons, this is how they look. And yes, Kaido is an Eastern dragon, and one of the main things I take away from this statement in the magazine is that it says a new legend might be born. In order for something to go down in history and to be deemed legendary, it has to be massive. It has to be something that people will remember for centuries. What could possibly be more fitting than slaying Kaido to fulfill the statement in the magazine and serve as a legendary slaying of an Eastern dragon, furthering Zoro's position in the world and getting him closer to achieving his goal of becoming not only the world's strongest swordsman, but a man whose name reaches the heavens. The second magazine statement is something barely anybody in the community has seen because it unfortunately was not translated by Arta over at the library of Ohara.com, and considering he is the primary source for these kind of things in the community, nobody has really seen this statement. But in volume 6 of the One Piece magazine, it talks about Ryuma for a bit, and it says, and I quote the translation I found here, "Perhaps a strong swordsman who people call the second Ryuma has already been born." This is yet another statement that supports Zoro killing Kaido, as Ryuma was the legendary swordsman who slayed a dragon, and it's only right for Zoro, who is seemingly the second Ryuma, to do the same thing and form his own legend by slaying a dragon too. All this talk about Ryuma is honestly incredibly necessary because Ryuma is an integral and probably the most influential part of this theory, and for that reason I'm going to dedicate the next portion of this video to Ryuma and the parallels he shares with Roronoa. There is no point of me going incredibly in depth here because this stuff is fairly straightforward and we don't want to be here for hours, so I'm going to list all of the currently known parallels between Zoro and Ryuma. Ryuma is practically the spitting image of Zoro. They look like they could be twins, only Ryuma had black hair and Zoro obviously has green hair. Both Zoro and Ryuma were accused as murderers and blamed for crimes that they did not commit. In the one-shot Monsters, Ryuma meets a girl who was traumatized by a dragon and then he goes on to slay that dragon. In Wano, Zoro meets Hiyori, a girl whose life was traumatized by Kaido, who is also a dragon. I'm sure you know what comes next. Ryuma and Zoro both share the exact same ambition, the hope to fight against the strongest swordsman in the world someday. Both Ryuma and Zoro had epithets or nicknames they were given by others that they weren't aware of. Ryuma was known as the King, whilst Zoro was known as a demon or the holy terror of the seas. And then there's a lot of tiny little similarities in their behaviors and characteristics, like the way they laugh, for example. Ryuma is a character who Oda created years before he even started writing One Piece, so this is clearly a character who means a lot to Oda. He's one of the first characters he ever designed and breathed life into. The reason Oda even wrote the story of Monsters was because he simply wanted to draw a double-page spread of a dragon being slayed by a swordsman. It is a concept that Oda is very fond of, so giving Zoro, the protagonist who Oda said would be Japanese in the real world, the most prominent role in the Japanese-themed arc, and giving him that double-page spread where he slays Kaido, is a very, very real possibility that fans should stop overlooking. Speaking of Zoro's parallels to one legendary swordsman of the past being Ryuma, definitely does help me smoothly transition to the next portion of this theory, which is the parallels between Zoro and Kozuki Oden. Just like with the Ryuma parallels, there's no point of me going incredibly in depth here because the stuff is fairly straightforward and we don't want to be here for hours, so I'm going to list all of the currently known parallels between Zoro and Kozuki Oden. Oden met Toki when she was 26 years old. Zoro met Hiyori when she is 26 years old. The way in which Oden meets Toki and Zoro meets Hiyori is extremely similar. Oden saves Toki, whose life was in danger, and then ends up fainting. Zoro also saves Hiyori, whose life was in danger, and then ends up fainting too. Toki nurses Oden back to life, and Hiyori nurses Zoro back to life. Toki cries in Oden's arm, Hiyori cries in Zoro's arm. Oden took the blame for the mountain god incident, a crime he did not commit. Zoro took the blame for the murders in the capital, a crime he did not commit either. They both also have a very similar fighting style. And lastly, the biggest parallel, their unwavering loyalty is depicted through some of the greatest sacrificial moments in the entire series. Oden literally carries the scabbards on his back as he stands boiling in a pot of oil, and Zoro stands for an entire day after taking Luffy's pain and forfeiting his life for the sake of his nakama. These parallels between Zoro and Oden, as well as these parallels between Zoro and Ryuma, are extremely obvious once pointed out as I've described, but why do these parallels matter? Well, if you're a big fan of the series, I'm sure you know of Oda's favourite theme to incorporate in his storytelling, inherited will. Some examples of inherited will are how Chopper inherited Dr. Hiruruk's will to find a cure to any disease in the world, or how Luffy inherited the wills of Kaugara and Noland and successfully found and rang the golden bell of Shandora, or how Sanji inherits Zeph's will to find the legendary All Blue, or how Zoro inherits Kuina's will to become the world's strongest swordsman, etc, etc. As exemplified by this quote from Goldie Roger, inherited will is a core theme of One Piece as a series, and you can find it prevalent in practically every single arc. And Wano is not exempt from this. Wano is another arc where I think we can expect inherited will to be a fundamental theme of the narrative, and these parallels between Zoro and Oden, and Zoro and Ryuma, are proof of this. Ryuma slayed a dragon and saved the people of Wano hundreds of years ago, and now Zoro will inherit his will to protect Wano by slaying a dragon to save the people of Wano. Oden tried his very best to defeat Kaido and save the people of Wano 20 years ago, but he failed. But now Zoro will inherit his will as well as his sword and slay Kaido to save the people of Wano in his stead. And that's where Enma's extreme significance comes into the picture. When Zoro is first offered Enma, there is an editor's note on the page of the manga referencing inherited will. The two swords of Kozuki Oden, Enma as well as Ame no Habekiri, will free Wano from Kaido and Orochi's tyranny. Enma will be used to slay Kaido, and Ame no Habekiri will be used to slay Orochi. And speaking of these two swords, we're going to be segueing onto the next portion of this video, which is mythology and how deeply integrated it is into this theory. Through extensive research of both Japanese and Chinese mythology, I came across some remarkable information. Firstly, let's talk about Enma and Ame no Habekiri. Enma is the god of hell, but in One Piece specifically, it is known as the blade that splits the earth to the bottom of hell. This is particularly intriguing when you look at Hiyori and Zoro's interaction, where she refers to Wano as hell. Zoro will use the blade he inherited from Oden to metaphorically split the earth to the bottom of hell by slaying Kaido. Ame no Habekiri will be used to slay Orochi by either Hiyori or Momonosuke. The narrative and thematic weight of this battle lies with either one of the Kozuki clan siblings, whichever one of them wields Ame no Habekiri. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is that the person who kills Orochi or who defeats Orochi uses Ame no Habekiri to fight against them. For in Japanese mythology, Ame no Habekiri was wielded by Susanoo to slay Yamata no Orochi, and I see no reason for Oda to introduce this blade into One Piece if he isn't intending to have Orochi be slain by the individual who wields Ame no Habekiri. Now, why do I say that the narrative and thematic weight of this battle lies with either Hiyori or Momonosuke? Why not one of the scabbards? Well, at the end of the day, any one of the Kozuki clan supporters fits the shoe as long as they wield the blade, but Hiyori and Momonosuke are the perfect fit. The reason I say this is, again, from something I learnt from studying mythology. Specifically, the four symbols, the four mythological creatures in China, the four sacred beasts. These four beasts are as follows: the tiger, the dragon, the bird, and the tortoise. I think the major conflicts in this arc, aside from the Big Mom conflict, which I'll definitely touch up on later, are between these four symbols. Each one of these four symbols can be connected to a character who already has a prominent role in this arc. Zoro is the tiger. Oda definitely views Zoro as a tiger, because even though there are these statements from the SBSs where Oda refers to Zoro as a shark, he has made it apparent that he also associates Zoro with a tiger. There are countless cover pages which prove this, but I think the best proof of it all is from a replica of Oda's work desk from a One Piece exhibition in Malaysia. As you can see on the screen right now, there is a Zoro tiger figurine on the desk replica, which tells me Oda definitely approves of this association between Zoro and tigers. If anything, Oda outright referring to Zoro as a tiger in the SBS of volume 95, just a couple of volumes after Kaido was revealed to be an Eastern Dragon, would kind of spoil the ending of the arc for readers who are familiar with this Chinese mythology. Oda refraining from calling Zoro a tiger is peculiar, because he definitely hasn't got an issue with depicting him as one or associating him with tigers in cover pages. What completely cements the notion that Zoro is associated with the tiger of Chinese mythology is that in the anime, Toei had Zoro fighting a tiger, and this is in the anime filler. But this wasn't an ordinary tiger. This tiger was quite peculiar. It had a scar on its eye and a sword in its mouth, just like Zoro. This tiger was basically Zoro as a tiger. It's such an odd and bizarre scene, but the best way for me to describe it would be foreshadowing for the anime only fans. foreshadowing that Zoro is killing Kaido because he is being depicted as a tiger here. The managing director of Toei Animation, Shinji Shimizu, has come out and said that the battle between Luffy, Kaido and Big Mom will hold great significance, which tells me Toei knows how Wano will end, and by including this tiger that looks like Zoro in the anime filler, they are setting up Zoro as the tiger who slays the dragon that is Kaido. The next of the 4 sacred beasts is the dragon, and the character who fits this is obviously Kaido. This one is fairly self-explanatory. Kaido is a dragon, one of the 4 symbols is a dragon, Kaido fits the role. What's particularly interesting about the tiger and dragon symbols in particular of the 4 is that the tiger and dragon are the Chinese yin and yang. I don't want to get all Tekking 101 with this because he would definitely do a far better job at this than I could, and I don't want to embarrass myself, so I won't be delving into this too deeply, but I'm sure you can find the answers you're looking for if you just Google tiger and dragon mythology. The crux of it comes to this though. The tiger opposes the dragon, they are wildly different, yet at the same time similar. They are constantly matched against each other in Chinese myths, and by having Kaido as the dragon of the 4 symbols and having Zoro as the tiger of the 4 symbols, it emphasizes how destined this conflict between them is. If this is truly what Oda was going for, it is a really cool turn of events as far as incorporating mythology into his writing. The third of the 4 sacred beasts is the bird, or specifically the peasant. The character who fits this is either Hiyori or Momonosuke. The reason I say this is because the crest of the Kozuki family is a peasant. It looks exactly the same as the peasant depicted on the 4 symbols. And lastly, the 4th sacred beast is the tortoise, and the character who fits this description is Kurozumi Orochi. However, why do I say this when Orochi is an 8-headed serpent? Well, the reason I say this is because Yamato no Orochi, or Orochi, translates as 8-forked serpent in English, and this is a river beast from ancient Japanese folklore, so this kind of fits in with the description of a tortoise. I think what completely seals the deal for me when it comes to the 4 symbols, and what makes me believe that Oda is actually incorporating this mythology into his writing, is the fact that Oda has already incorporated this mythological concept in a cover page in the past. In fact, it was a Japanese themed cover page which further alludes to it having some sort of future relevance in One Piece's Japanese themed arc, which is obviously Wano. The final thing in regards to mythology that I want to address is the Chinese zodiac, in particular the Hour of the Tiger. Zoro being associated with the tiger and the Hour of the Tiger taking place at dawn, the prophesized hour, cannot be a coincidence. What makes this piece of evidence so good is the fact that Oda has already implemented the Chinese zodiac in the arc so far. We have seen individuals mention the Hour of the Bull and the Hour of the Rat, both hours being a part of the Chinese zodiac. 3 AM to 5 AM is the Hour of the Tiger, which is dawn, and I want you to remember this because it's an integral component of another part of this mega theory, which is arguably the biggest part, and we're going to cover that a little later on. This is another one of the interesting things we found in support of this theory, and I'm sure you know that Thriller Bark and Wano are connected in various ways. However, the ways I'm about to share with you guys now are something I've never really seen discussed by the One Piece fandom. The biggest similarity between Thriller Bark and Wano is that both of these arcs are the only arcs in the history of One Piece as a series to have 2 major antagonists on a relative level of power and narrative influence. Kaido and Big Mom are equally as important. Of course, Kaido has more of a focus in this arc because he needs to be fleshed out, but Big Mom has already had her arc. In terms of being a force to be reckoned with and having to be defeated, Big Mom is just as influential and as important as Kaido to the plot of this arc. This is similar to Thriller Bark because if you remember, Thriller Bark had Moria and Kuma, 2 warlords, and Wano has Kaido and Big Mom, 2 emperors. They both possess a relative level of threat to the Straw Hats considering they're both Yonko who have been shown to be quite relative in terms of power. Taking down Kaido is just as important to Luffy as taking down Big Mom. Big Mom's role in this arc is very widely disregarded, but I'll get into that a little more deeply later on, so please make sure you watch this entire video. Let me tell you why Kaido and Big Mom actually resemble Kuma and Moria in more ways than one. Kaido's parallels with Moria are as follows. Orochi and Kaido have a dynamic that is quite akin to the dynamic between Hogback and Moria. Hogback's medical brilliance allowed for Moria to amass an incredible amount of corpses for battle. With his skill, he modified the body of an ordinary girl, Sindri, into a capable warrior that is fit for battle. The role Hogback serves for Moria is quite similar to the role Orochi serves for Kaido. As the Shogun of Wano, Orochi is the face that meets with the world government or CP0, which allows Kaido to make moves in the underworld and buy the smiles that he longs for. The massive stockpile of money and weapons that Orochi provides Kaido with are a pivotal contribution to Kaido's war plans, his dream to begin the biggest war known to man. Kaido and Moria both value the strength of their underlings greatly. They both seek out anything and anybody that can help them achieve their goals. Kaido uses smiles to build an army of monsters, and he also prefers to break the wills of his enemies and turn them into his subordinates rather than killing them. Moria uses his power, the Kage no Mi, to also build this army of corpses, and he has personally said before that he realizes the importance of superior underlings. Another cool little parallel between the two is the fact that both Moria and Kaido are no strangers to using underhanded tricks and tactics to gain any advantage that they can get. Luffy and Oden both had to try and deal with these tactics firsthand when fighting against Moria and Kaido. Interestingly, these tricks are made possible by unique paramecia devil fruits like the Mane Mane no Mi that belong to Kurozumi Higurashi or the Horo Horo no Mi that belongs to Perona. Kaido's top commander is King, who is a swordsman of some rare race. Moria's top zombie was Ryuma, who was a swordsman of legend from Wano, so both of their most valuable soldiers are extremely rare and are both swordsmen. We first hear of Wano in Thriller Bark, and Ryuma's significance as a character and his significance to Wano was established along with Shusui. Speaking of firsts, we hear Kaido's name for the first time in Thriller Bark, and we also get our first bit of foreshadowing for Big Mom through Lola. Now for Kaido's similarities with Kuma. Kuma was an honourable man who kept his word with Zoro when they made the deal back in Thriller Bark. Kaido seems to have developed into an honourable man himself after his experiences with Oden in his final moments. I say this because Kaido apologises for Higurashi's actions and the dirty trick he pulled in the fight between himself and Oden. Kuma and Kaido also compromised with Zoro and Oden by giving them a seemingly impossible task to endure that they in fact ended up enduring. Kuma went back on his initial mission to capture Luffy and settled for Zoro, if Zoro were to take all of Luffy's pain, which is something that should have killed Zoro. Kaido also gave the scabbards a chance at freedom only if Oden can withstand the boiling hot oil for an entire hour, both seemingly impossible tasks that Zoro and Oden both succeeded in. This isn't just a parallel between Kaido and Kuma, but it's also a parallel between Zoro and Oden. Now when it comes to Big Mom and her similarities with Moria, they aren't as numerous as Kaido's similarities to Kuma and Moria, but they're still very interesting. Both Big Mom and Moria are gluttons. Both Big Mom and Moria have a devil fruit ability that allows them to extract something from an individual. Big Mom can take your soul or your lifespan, and Moria can take your shadow. These abilities are used in a very similar way. Big Mom breathes life into inanimate objects and turns them into homies, whilst Moria breathes life into corpses by turning them into zombies. And that about wraps up the parallels between Thriller Bark and Wano, at least the parallels that are integral to this theory. There are even more parallels one could make that really emphasizes the thought that Oda puts into connecting these different narratives. Oda does pay attention to detail. Everything he does is for a reason. All of these connections, they have to amount to something. Why is Oda making all of these connections? Why is this mythology being incorporated into the story? Why are these parallels between arcs being made? Why are these parallels between Zoro and the two legendary swordsmen of the past being made? It's all for a reason. There has to be some sort of payoff to this. When it comes to the Thriller Bark and Wano comparisons though, one very big difference between the two arcs is that at the end of it, Zoro won't be saying nothing happened. This time, the entire country will witness Zoro's legendary feat of slaying Kaido. He will gain full recognition for his actions instead of them being kept secret as they were in Thriller Bark. Now, this part of the theory is incredible because my interpretation of Toki's prophecy downright confirms Zoro killing Kaido, but then again, the prophecy is so convoluted that numerous different interpretations can actually make sense. I'm going to read out the prophecy to you guys and explain to you guys why I believe Toki's words prophesied the death of Kaido at the hands of Roronoa Zoro. You are the moon unaware of the dawn, and cast 9 shadows on the night woven of 20 years, and you shall know the brilliance of the dawn. Now, this is quite hard to understand because there's a lot of metaphors, but in order to make sense of the prophecy, we're going to allocate individuals to each component of this prophecy. Firstly, the moon. I believe the moon is in reference to the Kozuki clan supporters. This one is fairly obvious and practically confirmed because Toki is telling the Kozuki clan supporters this prophecy and she says, "You are the moon." Also, you can find the symbol of a crescent moon on the Scabbards' kimono, further proving that the Kozuki clan supporters are associated with the moon. Then there's the Kozuki clan supporters who have the crescent moon tattooed on their ankles to mark their loyalty yet remain hidden in Wano. The second component that we have to allocate an individual to is the dawn. Now, this is the most important part. I believe the dawn is in reference to Zoro. There are 4 reasons as to why I say this. Firstly, Zoro's kimono in Wano had the symbol of the dawn clearly displayed on it. Secondly, Zoro's name in Slavonic directly translates to hero of the Golden Dawn. That's a pretty insane find. Thirdly, the dawn is at the same time as the hour of the tiger, and I've already made it clear as to why I associate Zoro with the tiger in Chinese mythology. And fourthly and lastly, the prophecy says the moon is unaware of the dawn, which definitely makes sense based on what we know so far. The Scabbards are unaware of Zoro's greatness. They don't know he's the dawn, and they don't know that he is the savior that Wano has been waiting for. At first, Kawamatsu was unaware of Zoro's greatness and doubted him, but then he started admiring Zoro and came to respect him as he saw him tame Enma. Now lastly, the 9 shadows that the prophecy is in reference to is definitely the most confusing one because I think there are 2 interpretations that fit and make sense. The first would be the 9 red scabbards, and the second would be Zoro's Kyutoryu, or 9 sword style whenever he uses Ashura. Both of these fit the description for the prophecy and make perfect sense. So allocating all of these things to the prophecy, and you basically get a prophecy that says, on this night, on the night of the Fire Festival, you Kozuki clan supporters will witness something truly brilliant, and that something will be the public slaying of Kaido at the hands of Zoro. The consensus within the community when it comes to Zoro's role in this arc is that his narrative lies with Orochi, and his motivations are to get revenge specifically on Orochi for killing Yasui. I can see why fans would think that Zoro is killing Orochi instead of Kaido, but if you pay good attention, in the very same page that sets up Zoro's motivation, Hiyori's motivation for revenge is also set up, and the narrative for Hiyori slaying Orochi is a far more compelling narrative than Zoro slaying Orochi for reasons I've already discussed. Firstly, Hiyori is a member of the Kozuki clan and fits the 4 symbols mythology, and secondly, Ame no Habakiri is either with Momonosuke or Hiyori, the same blade famed for slaying Yamata no Orochi in Japanese mythology. There's a reason why Zoro has Enma, the sword specifically hyped as being the sword to give Kaido his only scar, and there's a reason why either Momonosuke or Hiyori have Ame no Habakiri, the sword famed to slay Yamata no Orochi. There's a reason for these things. If Oda wanted Zoro to fight against Orochi, he would have given him Ame no Habakiri, not Enma. Regardless, the Zoro vs Orochi narrative is destroyed with a single panel from the Oden flashback. After Oden's trust is betrayed by Orochi, and after he is oppressed by Orochi for several years, Oden chooses to go after Kaido. Kaido, not Orochi. Kaido. Oda makes it vehemently clear that in order to take your revenge upon Orochi, you must defeat Kaido. He does this when he literally says their foe was Kaido. They paid heed to no other. The Scabbards didn't care about Orochi in this moment, they cared about Kaido. The true oppressor of Oden and the Scabbards is obviously Orochi. Kaido is just a tool or a weapon that guarantees Orochi's safety when it comes to the head of the conflict. It's the Kurozumi clan who truly oppress Wano and Oden, but still, Oden goes after Kaido. This is enough to me. This makes it very obvious that in order to avenge Yasui's death, Zoro needs to go after Kaido, especially when you consider that in Yasui's final moments, he himself focuses on the threat that is Kaido rather than Orochi, who is the head of everything and is at that very moment ordering Yasui's public crucifixion. And this is Yasui, by the way, the man who Zoro is trying to avenge. If Yasui is outright saying that for 20 long years nobody has been able to take Kaido's head and is emphasizing that the way to truly save Wano is to kill Kaido, then why would Zoro try to go after Orochi to avenge Yasui? Surely he can carry out Yasui's wishes. And the funny thing about this entire thing is that the speech bubble, the one that says, "Take Kaido's head," is placed directly above Zoro's head, almost to say that it is his job to carry out this impossible task of slaying the indomitable Kaido. Another thing that's worth mentioning when it comes to Zoro's motivations is that although they aren't as defined as Kid's or Luffy's, they are still present and they're incredibly crucial to the narrative of this arc. The reason I say this is because Zoro intends to avenge Yasui. This is the same Zoro who back on Skypiea told Ohm that he doesn't seek revenge, that he doesn't like to fight with a motive. This is probably the first time in the series where Zoro feels a sense of animosity towards the primary antagonist of the arc. Kaido is on Zoro's mind. He is thinking about Kaido, and that is made clear in chapter 981, where he specifically mentions that he is conserving his strength and his energy for the battle against Kaido. I'm going to make this brief and short because I've made videos on this exact topic in the past. I'm going to leave a link to those videos in the description, but it is damn near certain that Zoro is a member of the Shimotsuki clan. Zoro and Kuina's hometown in the East Blue belongs to the Shimotsuki clan, and the name of the month November in Japanese, the month that Zoro was born in, is also called Shimotsuki. Nothing Oda does is coincidental. That's actually one of the things that people appreciate about Oda as a writer the most. In the most recent SBS, Oda confirms that Kuina and Koshiro are members of the Shimotsuki clan, and he also strongly implies that this has a connection to Zoro's lineage. Shimotsuki Ushimaru's silhouette is the spitting image of Zoro, and at this point I am 99% sure that Ushimaru is Zoro's father. This can definitely serve as a motivation for Zoro in the fight against Kaido, because as we know, Ushimaru was murdered by Kaido 18 years ago. Kaido saw to it that Ringo did not escape destruction, and this event could be heavily tied to Zoro's childhood. I suspect we will be getting a second backstory for Zoro in this arc. It's also worth mentioning that Ryuma is also a member of the Shimotsuki family, and I've gone through his parallels with Zoro and why it would be poetic for Zoro to inherit his will and save the people of Wano by slaying Kaido. The day of the battle is also Shimotsuki themed, which further adds to the thematic weight of Zoro having the final blow. It is snowing on Onigashima right now, and it's a full moon. Shimotsuki stands for Frost Moon, so as a potential Shimotsuki, Zoro slaying Kaido on a snowy moonlit night is perfect. Now, I'm not going to delve into this too deeply because I have an entire video planned for this very topic, but one of the main questions I have in regards to this arc is what about Luffy? Surely Luffy, the main character, will not be outshined by Zoro. Luffy always takes the spotlight and he always defeats the main antagonist, so people struggle to see Zoro killing Kaido, and I honestly cannot blame them for thinking like this. But after disregarding Big Mom for too long, I finally stopped disregarding her. For the second time ever, we are in a situation where there are two antagonists on an equal standing. Kaido and Big Mom are just as relevant as each other. Big Mom will most definitely be defeated in Wano. Her story ends here. I seriously struggle to see Oda recycling her for a third arc. I understand the importance of Big Mom and Elbaf, but she doesn't physically need to be there to have a role to play. Big Mom is far too powerful to be disregarded in this arc. She's a wild card for every arc that she's in. One Piece is in its endgame. Another Yonko arc, specifically a Big Mom arc, would feel extremely redundant and repetitive. It shouldn't take 3 arcs to defeat Big Mom. The stage for her defeat is here, and the narrative for Luffy vs Big Mom is a lot stronger than people like to credit it for. Luffy needs to take credit for defeating both Big Mom and Kaido, which is why I'll never understand the kid killing Kaido or kid killing Big Mom theories. Because we all know, at the end of the day, the feat of defeating these two Yonko is going to Luffy and the Straw Hats. The reason I'm so sold on Zoro killing Kaido is because we know that whatever Zoro does in the world serves as further hype for Luffy. When Urouge saw Zoro for the first time and got to see what sort of man he is, he followed it up by saying, "I wonder what sort of man his captain is." This just goes to show that by killing Kaido, Zoro isn't taking away from Luffy's shine. He's adding to Luffy's shine. He is furthering Luffy's legacy by being able to carry out such a legendary feat as Luffy's subordinate. When it comes to Luffy vs Big Mom though, there's just so much to talk about and it definitely requires its own video, which I am planning to make. But I will say this, I think Luffy is definitely going to be involved in the Kaido fight as well as the Big Mom fight, but the most prominent role of the fight belongs to Zoro, and Zoro will be the one to kill and defeat Kaido, whilst Luffy will be the one who defeats Big Mom. And when it comes to the point of outshining Luffy, in terms of scale and renown, this has already happened in One Piece. Sanji technically defeated Big Mom in Whole Cake Island by knocking her out through his cooking, and this is a feat that technically outshines anything Luffy did on Whole Cake Island in terms of scale. Sanji defeated Big Mom in the climax and most decisive moment of the arc through his specialty, which is cooking, and Zoro will defeat Kaido in the climax and one of the most decisive moments of this arc through his specialty, which is obviously his swordsmanship. In this cover for Weekly Shonen Jump, there is an illustration of Luffy, Zoro and Kaido, and there's some very interesting text that says, and I quote, "The two pirates kill the evil spirits." This is hinting that either Luffy or Zoro will kill Kaido, and since Luffy doesn't kill, it's up to Zoro to carry out the task. Interestingly enough, there's a very similar cover page in Whole Cake Island that depicts Luffy, Sanji and Big Mom, and in that arc, Sanji technically defeated Big Mom through his cooking. Enma is said to be the blade that splits the earth to the bottom of hell, and in the latest chapter, Kaido's presence is said to be so heavy that it resembled the gate of hell. This can be seen as foreshadowing for Zoro to play a major role in the battle against Kaido. Kawamatsu mentions that the swords of fallen combatants shall be picked up by their comrades to continue the battle in their stead, and the soul that resides in a katana makes the samurai strong and enables him to destroy his enemy. This adds on to the weight of Zoro inheriting Enma from Oden, as well as inheriting Oden's will. By inheriting his katana, he also inherits the soul that resides in the blade, the same soul that wishes to keep Wano safe and to defeat Kaido. Zoro has inherited 3 swords from different individuals, and all of them serve a purpose. Zoro inherited Shusui from Ryuma, and he used that sword to slay a western dragon just like Ryuma did back on Punk Hazard. Zoro inherited Wado Ichimonji from Kuina, and he intends to keep his promise to Kuina to become the world's strongest swordsman with that blade. That blade is very, very valuable to Zoro. Zoro inherited Enma from Oden, and he also inherited Oden's will to protect Wano, and thus will kill Kaido with the same blade that is hyped up for the legendary feat of being one of the only blades to scar Kaido. And that is it, guys. I think I've shared most of the theory, at least as much as I can fit in 40 minutes, and I hope that I've convinced you guys of the very likely possibility that Zoro is the one to kill Kaido. I actually had a few more pages of this video script dedicated to addressing all the counter arguments that are available that I've seen opposing this theory. However, I think it's best for me to save that for an entirely separate video. In the comment section below, feel free to give me all of your counter arguments, everything you think is wrong with this theory, and all the reasons why you don't think this is happening. Because so far, this theory is bulletproof. I haven't been able to come across a single good criticism of the theory that debunks it, so I'd love to see your opinions on it, and I'd love to see if any of you can debunk it. Considering this is such a massive theory that is about this arc and the way this arc ends, we find more information and more evidence supporting this theory all the time. Whenever a new chapter drops, whenever a new Vivre card comes out, whenever a new magazine drops, we always find new information supporting Zoro killing Kaido, and perhaps one day we'll find something that debunks the theory. Who knows? But this is the second video addressing this theory on my channel, and I guarantee you, it won't be the last. This is something I genuinely see happening in this arc, and if I find more evidence in support of the theory, I'm going to address it in a future video. So make sure you guys subscribe to me if you're interested and would like to see more of that. I've been Fiji, guys. This is it for this mega theory. I actually didn't manage to cover everything in this video, but I tried to cover all of the crucial parts of the theory and the most important stuff. But if you're super interested or want to have a discussion with me personally regarding this theory, join the Discord, the link to which will be in the description. I'm always active and I'm always willing to have a discussion about this theory that I am quite passionate about. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, guys. Comment your thoughts on the theory down below. Let me know if you think it's possible that Zoro kills Kaido, and subscribe for more One Piece content. I've been Fiji. Peace.